We've decided to go ahead and hit you guys with a part 2 to our previous video about the Titanic, since we've seen such overwhelming interest from the first video. Now, it's safe to say pretty much anything you hear or research about that Titanic is pretty much an urban legend, considering it sank over 100 years ago. But we've got a new wave, get it, of urban legends that might be true coming at you right now. Hey everyone, what's up and welcome back to Most Amazing Top 10. I'm your host, Lindsay Ivan, and today I'm bringing you the top 10 urban legends and myths about the Titanic that might be true, part 2. So if you haven't seen part 1 already, make sure you check that one out as well. Hey guys, we are giving away $5,000 total during this springtime. We have already given away $2,000 out of the $5,000. If you guys want a chance to win, head over to our Instagram account at Most Amazing Official, follow us, and look for the contest images for a chance to win. Good luck! Coming in at number 10, we have the musician. Apparently, the ship's musicians stayed on board playing music to calm passengers until the bitter end. The tragic image of the lonely musicians playing as the ship went down is a classic vignette from the Titanic. It's almost too poetic, but it actually did happen. This urban legend has been fact-checked. Many survivors later told similar tales of seeing the 8 young musicians performing on deck. None, however, survived the disaster. There's some disagreement as to what their final song was. Some survivors recalled hearing "Nearer My God to Thee," while another contemporary account names the last tune as "Autumn." But considering "Nearer My God to Thee" has better mythic resonance, it's the one usually employed in movie adaptations. Coming in at number 9, we have Dorothy Gibson. American silent film actress Dorothy Gibson was one of the approximately 700 survivors of the collision. Upon arriving in New York City unscathed, she immediately began filming Saved from the Titanic, the first film to depict the events of the sinking. It was released in May 1912, a month after the crash. She is famous for wearing the same clothes and shoes in the movie as she had worn during the actual sinking. While the film was successful, it exists only in memories now. The only known print of the film was destroyed in a fire. With no proof, it definitely registers as a legend, but one that could be true. We will never truly know. Up next at number 8, we have the ghosts. Now, this one didn't happen on the Titanic per se, but it's so close that we're gonna throw it on this list. The Titanic Artifact Exhibition at the Luxor Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas apparently has a ghost wandering its grand staircase. Employees and guests alike have seen this mysterious woman who wears a black period dress with a white collar and her hair in a bun. One time, a photographer prepped for the opening of the exhibition and he spotted this woman casually walking down the grand staircase. He was startled as he hadn't seen anyone enter and the staircase was roped off. He assumed she was part of the exhibit and asked if she'd like him to photograph her. She ignored him and he went back to setting up. But suddenly, she was directly behind him. Again, he offered a photograph, and this time, she didn't just ignore him, she vanished. Oh. Keeping up with this whole haunted theme, the Georgia Aquarium also houses potentially haunted artifacts from the Titanic. The employees have claimed to see shadows, hear voices, and even be touched by the spirits. The paranormal activity is so intense that the Sci-Fi Channel's Ghost Hunters came to investigate. Side note, I would really love to be on an episode of Ghost Hunters, so pass the word forward. They reportedly captured a recording of a voice saying, "No, please wait," in the iceberg room. The team also picked up on several cold spots and witnessed a shadowy figure. After reviewing their findings, they concluded that the Titanic exhibit at the Georgia Aquarium is in fact haunted, probably from the lost souls that went down with the ship. Coming in at number 7, we have the girl named Jessie. There's a creepy legend surrounding the Titanic about a young Scottish girl named Jessie. On the same night the ship went down, Jessie was on the verge of dying. In her delirious state, she supposedly spoke of a massive sinking ship and a man named Wally playing a fiddle. She had no way of knowing the Titanic would sink that night, or that Wallace, aka Wally, would be playing the violin for his last time with his band as the ship went down. And at number 6, we have the racing boat. This myth has long been debated and potentially debunked. We've all heard the Titanic was racing for New York, trying to substantiate claims that she was big and bad and fast, and her captain was not to be messed with. This is why the ship strayed into dangerous waters, lurking with icebergs. In truth, people knew Titanic was fast and had the best engines and boilers in her day. But she wasn't a racing boat. At the time of the impact, most of the Titanic's boilers weren't lit, meaning that the ship was casually traveling. Alternatively, if you look at a map of Titanic's route, it's not suitable for setting records. But alas, this urban legend lingered for years, so we've included it on this list. We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the SOS. It's said that the Titanic frantically radioed messages as the crew realized she was doomed. But since the incident was late at night, many ships nearby had their radios turned off. However, some ships did respond, and even Titanic's sister ship, Olympic, sent word that they were coming to help. Legend has it that a passing ship, the Samson, saw Titanic's flares but carried on without a second glance. But in reality, the Samson was nowhere near the Titanic. The one ship that could have made it in time was the Californian, but they didn't receive calls for help. The first ship to reach Titanic survivors was the RMS Carpathia, 2 hours after the sinking. In our 4th spot, we have the curses. Out of all the Titanic curses, you'd think that at least one of them would be true. Well, White Star Line made a point of not holding launching spectacles for their ship when it's often a common practice to, for good luck. On most ships' debuts, companies would make a ceremony of transferring the new ship into the water. This involved cheering, blessings, and large crowds, often smashing a bottle of champagne off the bow as a sacrifice. Thing is, White Star Line never participated in such ceremonies with any of their ships, meaning that if this legend is true, the Titanic wasn't blessed or properly bid good luck. And that's why she sank. Moving on to number 3, we have the deliberate sinking. The Titanic is known as a huge disaster in history. The tragedy missed the onset of the First World War by 2 years, but some still speculate that a German U-boat was really behind the ship sinking. A number of Titanic survivors reported to have noticed an unidentified vessel approximately 5 to 6 miles away from the sinking ship, which reportedly lingered until 2 a.m. According to Dr. Franklin Rule's piece in the Huffington Post, Rule speculated that the craft was possibly a submarine that had surfaced to assess the damage it had caused to the Titanic. He also cited survivor testimony about a number of explosions that seemed to go off deep within the ship. He claims the sub may have deliberately targeted the luxury liner or possibly accidentally collided with it. In our 2nd spot, we have the Lookout. Apparently, Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee, who were crewmen on the Titanic, didn't have access to binoculars during the journey, and therefore couldn't see very far. The ship's 2nd officer was replaced at the last minute and forgot to hand off the key to the lockers that housed the ship's binoculars. The key resurfaced at an auction in 2010, where it was sold for over $130,000. According to the official 1912 inquiry findings, only 37 seconds elapsed between actually seeing the iceberg, calling downstairs, and deciding what course of action to take. Fleet was the lookout who called out the now famous words, "Iceberg right ahead." He survived the sinking, but tragically went on to die by suicide in 1965 after the death of his wife. On the centennial anniversary of the Titanic sinking, a prankster removed a memorial wreath from his gravestone and replaced it with a pair of binoculars, and a note apologizing for the lateness of the binoculars. And in our number 1 spot, we have the conspiracy theory. This rumor has everything you could ever want in a conspiracy theory. A man powerful and wealthy enough to play God, overly complicated methods of assassination, a mass casualty event, the Federal Reserve Bank. There's a theory out there that J.P. Morgan sank the Titanic in order to pave the way for the establishment of the Federal Reserve Bank in the U.S. The bank's creation was reportedly opposed by millionaire John Jacob Astor, Benjamin Guggenheim, and Macy's co-owner Isidore Straus. These 3 wealthy men did indeed lose their lives when the Titanic sank, but Morgan dodged death and disaster when he canceled his trip in the 11th hour. This dude owned the IMM, which in turn owned the White Star Line. Morgan was reportedly supposed to be on the ship, but decided to skip the voyage at the last second. How convenient. The Pittsburgh Post-Gazette reported that he decided to linger in Europe in order to buy tapestries for his art collection. But what reason would Morgan have to allegedly sink his own ship? Well, conspiracy theorists say that in the interest of clearing away opposition to the Federal Reserve Bank, Morgan somehow manipulated all of his rivals to sail on the ship so that he could sink it. But Layton pointed out that it's almost unimaginable that Morgan could have gotten all three of his major rivals to take the same trip. Like, what are the odds? He says, surely there had to be an easier way to carry out the plan. Even more importantly, how is it that no one came forward in the century since and said, yes, I helped to set up the sinking of the Titanic in order to kill 3 men who were opposed to the formation of the US Federal Reserve. And that's all for today's video. Let's move on to our comment shout-out portion. I'll be shouting out comments for my video, Top 10 Scary 2020 Simpsons Predictions. Seth freaking Rollins commented, plot twist, the creator of The Simpsons is a time traveler. Maybe you're onto something. That would explain a lot. Like maybe he's going into the future and creating these episodes to warn us of possible events. Kurjava commented, make a million jokes and at least one of them is guaranteed to happen. This is also true. So maybe it's just good luck and a wild imagination. Ariana Williams commented, I believe they aren't predicting anything, but instead they are spilling government secrets. Oh, I like that theory. I like that conspiracy theory the best. Wow. And that's all the comments I'm shouting out for today's video. Make sure to comment something down below for a chance to be featured in my next comment shout out. And as always, don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to Most Amazing Top 10 for more amazing videos. I've been your host, Lindsay Ivan, and I'll see you when I see you.